Welcome to my brand new Fire Mage PvP guide updated for the War Within. In this video, I'm going to cover my talents, stat priority, macros, and burst rotations. If this video helps you out in any way, then as always let me know by dropping a rating below. So it's no secret that the Frostfire hero talent is much more popular amongst fire and frost mages in PvP. This is mainly because Frostfire Bolt hits for 2 million damage. But casting frost spells just makes me feel like I'm playing a frost mage, and I find the frost gameplay to be very dull and static. And I just find fire way more fun. Sunfury also offers 2 million burst damage with Burden of Power, but it's split between a 1 million Pyroblast and 4 250k Meteorites, totaling the 2 million damage. Sunfury is way better in my opinion because this damage happens every 7th Pyro instead of relying on RNG for Frostfire bolts. I think most mages were too quick to judge the Sunfury hero talent early on in this expansion, and in all honesty just aren't playing it correctly. Here's the talent build. For 2s, I run Cryo Freeze and Deep Impact for the Meteor cooldown reduction. For 3s, I swap into Accumulative Shielding and Barrier Diffusion, as well as Firefall for more consistent Meteor damage, and potentially devastating burst damage with double Meteor. So the way this build works is by running Lit Fuse, you gain access to Sparking Cinders. Sparking Cinders increases the damage of Pyroblast by 15%. Even though Sparking Cinders can only proc about 3 times per minute, you can actually gain this buff on demand with Crater Maker, which causes Combustion to grant you Lit Fuse. I also use the WeakAuras add-on to track my Firefall buff, so I can try to build up a double Meteor for my Combustion window. I'll link that in the description below as well. So to understand Sunfury, you have to understand Spellfire Spheres, which is a buff you gain from consuming Hot Streak 6 times, aka every 7th Pyro cast. So every 7th Pyro, you'll gain a Spellfire Sphere and also gain the Burden of Power buff. This increases the damage of Pyroblast by a whopping 20%, so it's important to build this up for your burst. The easiest way to do that is by spending all your Phoenix Flames first before refreshing all your charges with Combustion. This build also heavily relies on the talents Mana Cascade and Ignite the Future, which work in conjunction with each other and increase your haste by an extra 2.5%, and overall causes more burst damage compared to the other talent choice, Rendurmancy. Sunfury Execution would have been crazy if it increased the damage of Scorch procs, which hit for about 1 million damage, but unfortunately even when combined with Molten Fury, these talents do not make Scorch hit harder. Having 5% execute range just isn't as good as extending your Combustion window with Savor the Moment. I was really hoping that Gravity Lapse would have been a stun for Mage like a modern Deep Freeze, but unfortunately, Blizzard changed this to be a knockback that holds enemies in the air like a root and replaces Dragon's Breath, which is one of Mage's primary tools for crowd control. For PvP talents, I run Master Shepherd, Ice Wall, and Greater Pyroblast. But because GPy can be easily stopped or interrupted, I swapped this out for Ring of Fire in 3s. I want to quickly mention some secret glyphs that can help you land polymorphs easier, and that's Glyph of Polymorphic Proportions combined with Glyph of Polymorph Monkey. This will make your polymorph as tall as possible, making it easier to get in line of sight and cast a repoly. Stat priority works exactly the same as last expansion, with critical strike still being absolutely useless because we always have 100% crit chance with Combustion, haste making you cast faster, mastery increasing the damage of Ignite, and versatility being the PvP stat that makes you deal more damage and take less damage in PvP combat. The priority here should be to stack haste and versatility as high as possible, since we can't actually reach secondary stat caps in the first season of an expansion, so mastery builds are very weak at the moment. Stacking haste will make your burst damage as high as possible, and I know I made a whole video discussing how mastery is better than haste, and that is still true, but in later seasons of PvP when we have access to more stats. But at the moment, stacking haste actually provides more sustained damage compared to mastery. Use Algari Competitor's crafted gear to get the maximum amount of haste. These pieces have slightly less versatility on them for slightly more haste. But if you just hate the crafting system, I totally agree and understand, and you'll be just fine running with the Conquest gear. I'm just making an argument here for min-maxing the fire spec. Make sure you're running the Nerubian embellishments on your weapon and armor pieces so that you get the versatility proc from the Ascendance buff, which has really high uptime, making it the best embellishment choice. You'll want to be using the Cognitive Bloodstone and Versatile Emeralds with 147 haste and 49 versatility for gems to have the maximum amount of stats compared to Quick Emeralds, which only give 176 haste. Enchant your rings with Radiant Haste, enchant your weapon with Authority of Radiant Power for the primary stat buff, your legs with Sunset Spell Thread, your cloak with Burrowing Rapidity, your wrist with 1000 Speed, and your boots with Scout's March. For PvP trinkets, always use Medallion and either a badge for 2s or an insignia for 3s. I use macros to cast spells faster with Cursor Meteor, Cursor Ring Fire, Cursor Ring Frost, Cursor Flamestrike, Mouse Decurse, StopCasting Dragon's Breath, Spam Block, and Cancel Ice Block. Now finally, the one-shot burst rotation. For 2s and duels, I unfortunately wasn't able to improve on my previous guide's rotation, despite having access to more Fire Blasts than ever before. The main reason the rotation works is because all of the damage hits at the same time, and by Fire Blasting your target before the combo, you just give them a heads up that you're about to cast big damage and give them a longer time to react. Therefore, to one-shot, you still want to Greater Pyro, Meteor, Flame Excel Fireball, Combustion during the cast, then as everything lands, Fire Blast, Pyroblast, Pyroblast, Fireblast, Pyroblast. Make sure you cast Combustion before the audio cue for Meteor coming in so that the combustion affects your Meteor. You can also macro your badge trinket into Meteor to ensure that it affects the spell. Now, the whole reason I wanted to make this guide was actually for the double Meteor 3v3 build. I know I often say that spells that telegraph your burst are very bad, but because Sunfury just has so many Meteors available, your enemy often can't tell which Meteor indicates your burst damage. To get the maximum burst damage as a Fire Mage in Arena, you want to first build up your Firefall and Spellfire sphere buffs, then Ring of Fire, Meteor, Flame Excel Fireball, Fireblast, Fireblast, Combustion, Pyroblast, Pyroblast, Fireblast, Pyroblast, Fireblast, Pyroblast, Fireblast, Pyroblast. However, if you're just starting a match, you probably won't have Firefall built up, so it's best to just ignore the buff and burst right away to immediately start forcing enemy defensives. Then when you burst later in the game, you can try to line up your Firefall and Combustion window. You still do insanely good burst damage even without Firefall though, so don't rely on it too heavily. It's more like icing on the cake. If you've watched my previous fire guides, then you'll know that the main difference in this rotation is the timing of Combustion. The new spontaneous Combustion talent in the War Within allows us to refresh our Fireblast and Phoenix Flames charges on demand. So it may take some practice after years of combusting before pressing Fireblast, but once you get it down, it adds so much damage to your burst, given that Fireblast is off the global cooldown. Be sure to subscribe and keep an eye out for my Sunfury Fire Mage race tier list, as well as my Fire Mage talent breakdown for the War Within. Despite WoW PvP being at one of its lowest lows, I still love making these guides and streaming on Twitch. And now that this guide is finally done and I can finally let myself off the hook, I'll be back to streaming more often again. Although I have found it harder to enjoy the game recently for my own reasons, I'll still try to stream as often as I can. I am also one of those players that feels like we're in the middle of Dragonflight Season 5, and these new Gladiator mounts are really not motivating me like the last expansions did. I want to be upfront with you all and let you know that I'm not at all interested in WoW Hardcore or Marvel Rivals. Retail WoW is the only PvP game deep enough for me to sink my degenerate teeth into, and I think that still remains the game's biggest strength. At the time of writing this script, my channel has over 334 subscribers, and my highest viewed video has over 15,000 views. I never would have thought that this channel would do so well in less than a year. And that's all thanks to you guys for watching, liking, commenting, and sharing my videos. Know that you guys have fulfilled a dream of being a YouTuber that I never thought would actually come true, and this channel, all of its viewers, and especially the comments, have intangibly changed my life for the better. And again, thank you so much for watching.